Riding, the feeling of speed and motion. It's an experience that man has known and enjoyed as long as he's known the horse. Today, we still have horses, and people, especially kids, love to ride for fun. But lately, kids have responded to a new kind of ride. The minibike. Its motorized appeal has captured kids' attention like nothing else has done for a long time. The minibike. It's the new ride. A way of recreational living that seems to be gaining more and more interest year after year. That's the sporting fun of minibike riding. But with minibikes, there's a broad concern for safety, and there should be. Because safety and fun must go together. Safety, in order to be effective, is learned in a positive way and used in good practice. It's an attitude. Let's make sure it's the right one. The privilege of having a minibike carries with it responsibilities, mature responsibilities. It was made to be used, but at the right time. The trouble is, most youngsters put minibikes and bicycles in the same category. Granted, they both have two wheels, but the minibike is different. It has a motor. It's a dangerous playground. The small minibike, the small rider. The street is definitely the wrong place to be, anytime. People just don't expect to see something as small as a minibike making an appearance on the street. Its profile is even smaller than a bicycle. All too often, the rules of common sense are broken. The temptation to ride, illegally at that, overcomes the concern for safety. The law has been applied for a purpose. Parents have to supervise proper use of the small motorized cycle, and it's everyone's job to see that laws are obeyed. This kind of underground riding isn't doing much for the reputation of the minibike, and it can only lead to one thing: trouble.
One of the things that we're most concerned about is the size of the machine. And we find that as we investigate accidents, that so often the driver of the car did not see the rider of the motorcycle or the minibike. A minibike is characterized by a short wheelbase, tiny wheels, low seat, very small and easy for youngsters to handle. And so we're concerned that youngsters don't try to ride these on the streets and highways in traffic. On a machine like this, they should always use their rear brake first. And of course, if they use the front wheel brake and not the rear wheel brake, they run the risk of locking up that front wheel, and then of course they can't steer it. Some other key things about mini bikes is the use of the kill button so that you can shut the engine off if you should fall. And of course, a really important feature for youngsters is not to take the muffler off, because a real factor in public acceptance is quietness. So we want to keep these machines quiet so that they do not disturb people.
Learning how to ride mini bikes is easy. For many, the bicycle has been a good teacher of balance. Mini bikes are different though, and there's a proper time and place to learn. A cleared parking lot obtained with permission can be used for your beginning checkout. You'll go through these points. Know your bike. A maintenance pre-check with a familiarization of controls, followed with engine off stops, restricted riding, and supervised riding. The most important part of mini bike riding is knowing how to safely stop. This is where the instructor puts the 3 T's to work. They are teach, test, and try out. We first teach brake familiarization. Some bikes have 2 hand brakes. Other bikes have a front hand brake and a rear foot brake. Here's the throttle. The rider, while sitting on the bike, learns the feel of the parts and controls that make the mini bike react. Other things like finding neutral are taught as well. Dry land instruction beforehand makes it easier for the rider later on. Next, the teacher tests the learner. This review helps the student remember and gives him practice.
That's right. Right. Very good now.
Each mini bike rider tells what he's just learned in getting to know the bike. This kind of programmed learning helps when the next steps are taught, tested, and tried out with the bike in motion.
Real good. Very good. Hey, you're doing all right. Okay, now let's get your helmets on.
The helmet, one of the most important items of safety, is used whenever the bike and rider are in motion. It is strapped on for a snug but comfortable fit. Make it a natural association. The helmet and the bike always go together.
Okay, now let's put your gloves on.
Protective clothing and gloves are also part of your safety appearance.
Hey, look at me.
Okay, now sit a little further back on the seat.
A good mini bike rider should have a good posture. Feet are correctly placed on the pegs. Eyes looking forward, not down. Leg position goes hand in hand with body position. The knees are kept close to the gas tank. Now to try out. With the engine off, dry run stops let the rider put to work what he's just learned about brakes. Practical knowledge of how to stop is good safety know-how.
Now stop.
Ready to ride. Eye protection in place. This is the restricted riding part of the lesson. With the engine powering the bike, the instructor guides speed and balance as the mini biker pushes off and steers straight ahead.
Okay, not too much gas.
Holding onto the bike helps to smooth sudden starts. The learner now feels the mini with the engine working. Under this bike power, he practices straight line braking. The instructor, still maintaining close control, jogs along with the rider as a new experience in the lesson unfolds. This time, it's steering over a predetermined route. Now confident that the lesson has progressed comfortably, the instructor watches from the sidelines. This is the supervised riding part of their training. Occasional prompting and guidance is given, but it's mainly an individual effort by now. Objects are easier to tackle. Every now and then, a corrective reminder like keeping good posture is given. Gradual progression is encouraged. Gear shifting is still another plateau to reach in the safety learning session. Safety techniques become natural with familiarization. An emergency stop command is given. Panic stops help reaction skills. Turning, braking, and balancing, staying on the right track. This is just part of what it takes in the procedure of developing good riding habits, and part of the progress learned in your improving safety attitude. Shifting involves coordination with the throttle as you ease into a higher gear. Be sure you're using both brakes. Apply the rear brake slightly ahead of the front brake. Part of riding is making sure your bike is safe before mounting it. In your walk-around inspection, check all cables, brake action, and brake adjustment. Check the oil, the gas supply. The handlebars should be locked in place. All bolts are tight. Tires are kept properly inflated. Your owner's manual will tell you the correct pressure to use. A loose chain needs adjustment. The alignment marks, which should match up on both sides of the tire, are your guides when adjusting to about a ½ inch of play. Chain care in the way of lubrication is also important. The air cleaner is also given periodic attention. The filter is cleaned in a non-flammable solvent, wrung dry, and given a drop of oil before it's reassembled. Moving a mini bike by car requires attention to preparation. All parts that allow the gas to flow are turned off. The carburetor is drained. Handlebars are folded down to make the bike more compact, and they're locked into place. Don't make the mistake of tying a mini bike to a car. Instead, load it into the trunk. As it is eased into position, keep the oil cap side of the bike up. That way, there's less chance of an oil leak.
There we are. Now, how about that? What do you say we go ride?
Many families have station wagons, which are handy when it comes to transporting mini bikes. The key to stowing a mini bike in a station wagon is to anchor it into position. The bike's weight should be kept as low as possible. Lower it into the luggage storage compartment. It's much safer to have most of the weight below and on the rear wheel. Help cushion the ride with the aid of an old blanket or pad. Lock the bike into place with the aid of a tie-down strap. One end is hooked to the bike, the other end is fastened to the floor of the wagon. Once anchored, the mini bike is safe from hazardous movement inside the station wagon. Helmets should be stored below as well. They're out of the way here and can't roll around while you're traveling. Other bikes, like the larger ones adults ride, can be towed on a special trailer. If the bike is not properly locked into place, it could create a perilous situation if it should come off on the road. Finding a place to ride doesn't have to be a problem. You'll discover there are many areas available. In some parts of the country, there's the National Forest. Before riding, check in at the ranger station. There may be parts of the forest that are not open for bikes. Remember, when you borrow something, you ask permission before you use it, and you respect and take care of it when you use it. That's what most off-road riding is all about. The rangers are glad to offer information. Their maps will point out the places for riding that are open to motorcycles. Courtesy and safety in the forest is everyone's concern. Make sure the Forest Service knows that you're among the people who care. Review their common sense policy of protecting our natural environment. Always stay on existing trails, off open meadows, out of live stream beds, and off of fire breaks. And the rangers remind us that all bikes must be equipped with USDA-approved spark arrestor mufflers. camp location, ready to prepare for the ride.
Okay,
But
well,
before
you
riding,
just swell
make sure
right
you
there.
have the right safety attitude.
Get it right over
Boots give protection that no tennis shoe or street shoe can.
there. All right, let's get the other
Riding
one.
pants are straight-legged, no bell-bottoms.
Right over there. That's it.
Hey, let's get ready to ride.
A long-sleeve shirt is a must for trail riding. Helmets should meet strict safety standards. Check for a rating. It should have at least a Z90 and preferably a Snell Foundation approval.
Looking good.
This glove has no seam, which could cause riding blisters. The other side of the glove has protective ridges.
Okay, here they are, right here.
Goggles keep dust and bugs out of your eyes. It's good practice and common sense to wear them.
Good job. How's that? Looking good. Now let's check the bike out. Okay, I'm ready.
After dressing with protection, don't forget your pre-bike walk-around check. How's the chain? Don't forget to check the gas and oil. How about the brakes? Time to ride. Check over your shoulder before you go. Remember to respect others and their right to use the forest by staying away from other campers. Be conscious of things like noise and dust, things that you can control. Always stay on existing trails and avoid running over plants of any kind. And don't spin your wheels. That's the kind of thing that causes erosion. One of the advantages of traveling by bike is that you can get to places faster and many times easier. It's a time for discovery, exploration, and fun. Remember, just because your Mini can go far on little gasoline doesn't mean that long trips can be taken. Always know your location. Make sure you can easily walk back to camp if you have a breakdown. Always ride together, never alone. The fun of riding together. It's much better sharing things that way, man to man. Private property owners want to know who's using their land and how it's being used. It might surprise you to learn how many people are receptive to your riding on their land, if you ask first.
Out of there.
In farm country, let the farmer know of your concern for his livestock and planted ground. Tell him about your safety attitude. It's reassuring that you have safety equipment and all bikes are equipped with mufflers. Everyone must do their part in maintaining a good image for the cyclist. Doing the right thing can mean more ground for all riders, especially in those areas of the country that have less public land to ride on. Be on the alert for the unexpected. Wire is always a potential hazard. It can be hard to see, so always be prepared for sudden stops. Carefully cross fences if they're down. Stay on trails and those areas the farmer gives permission to ride on. Adults should lead the way. Keep your speed down if this is unfamiliar territory. Stay on the farmer's trails and enjoy the fun of riding. Here's a special situation that calls for these riders to bring their bikes to a stop alongside the trail. The motors are being shut off too. The reason? Horses can be easily frightened by bikes. Pull well off the trail and sit still. Be considerate of others. Make a friend on the trail.
One of the questions that is put to us so often is if the youngsters cannot ride on the streets and highways, where can they ride? Well, we feel that one of the most important things is for city fathers and public officials to make off-street riding areas available to youngsters. And if we're going to teach them young and teach them early, we need to provide a place where they can't get hit by cars. So mini bike parks and trail riding areas are really necessary in this whole kind of a program. We're pleased to find that many communities are doing this sort of thing. And if they have an opportunity to get on the machine and to learn how to brake it and how to accelerate it and how to turn and how to maintain their balance and interact with other vehicles on the trail and off-street, then this provides them with a very important sense of response that just can't be learned too early. And they'll be better car drivers, and if they progress to motorcycles, well, they'll have conquered many of these things at a point in time where they're really skillful. So we think that the off-street area is very vital to a good job of teaching safety with motorcycles.
The bike park is one popular outing for the rider. The desert, still another. Here, unfamiliar territory tells these cyclists the correct attitude of safety. Slower travel, looking ahead for the unexpected, and keeping in control of the bike at all times. If that doesn't happen, then the incautious rider may be in for a few surprises. Those are some of the potential hazards to watch out for. They usually appear when you least expect them. Another is following too closely, especially when going up hills. Hill travel means solo travel. Wait for your buddy. This is the time to ride without following and without being followed. Use both brakes and stay in gear when going down. Keep a good body position going up. Your engine, downhill, can be your third brake. And when going up, shift your weight slightly forward. Sensible hill travel, part of your safety attitude. Let's review some of the points. First, your protective clothing. A long sleeve shirt, boots, helmet, goggles, gloves. Second, your off-bike check. Brakes, bolts, cables, chain, gas, oil, tires. Third, your on-bike attitude. Look before you go. Travel with companions. Keep your distance. Stay in line. Know how to use your brakes. Think of protection of the environment. Keep noise and dust to a minimum. Be courteous of others. Ride with a safety attitude. Teach it to others. By respecting the rules, you help keep the fun of riding alive. Show people that you care about the minibike. Show them that you care about the safety attitude. Your biggest reward will be in the comfort of knowing that others respect you, your minibike, and your attitude. After all, it makes for a better world for everyone.